Hey guys, I'm here at aircrap.org and there's a rather interesting article I just wanted to read to you. It was actually broadcast on Australian Broadcasting Corporation. It was on a radio station there. I'm just going to read you this article. It's called Controversial Geoengineering Experiment to Stop Global Warming Discovered Off Canadian Coast. And there's a transcript of it here. I'm going to read it. And it's by reporter Margaret O'Neill. The emergency science to ward off the worst effects of climate change, from space-based mirrors to chemicals blasted into the stratosphere. Transcript, Tony Jones, presenter. When it was recently revealed that 100 tonnes of iron dust had been deliberately poured into the Pacific Ocean off the Canadian coast, it was described as the world's first rogue geoengineering project, an example of how the Earth's fragile system could be tampered with. While some environment groups want a ban on any field research for geoengineering, despite hopes that it might delay or mitigate some of the worst effects of climate change. But the recent World Bank report predicting a devastating 4-degree rise in global temperature by the end of century means more scientists are now willing to consider it. In a moment, we'll hear from one of the world's leading geoengineering proponents, Harvard professor and nutcase David Keith, whose research is funded partly by Bill Gates. But first, this special report from Margaret O'Neill. Margaret O'Neill, reporter. The red ochre tail in the water is part of 100 tonnes of iron-rich dust poured into the ocean this year off the west coast of Canada by controversial American environmental entrepreneur Russ George. Russ George. As soon as we did this, on one side of the boat, you'd see this brilliant sapphire blue ocean, and on the other side of the boat, the ocean had turned to a beautiful emerald green. Margaret O'Neill. He says it brought the ocean back to life by generating what might be the world's biggest man-made plankton bloom. Such blooms can increase fish stocks and the ocean's capacity to absorb CO2 from the atmosphere, a counter to climate change. Russ George. We had vast schools of dolphins that would swim right up into the back of the boat, and it was a sight to behold. Margaret O'Neill. It was a sight that alarmed critics around the world who warn iron fertilisation is unproven science that can change the chemical composition of the ocean. Jason Blackstock, Oxford University. People did not know this experiment was going to go on ahead of time, and the public was in shock, and the political leadership was in shock, and other scientists were in shock when this suddenly came out publicly. Margaret O'Neill. Russ George says the experiment was done at the request of the indigenous Haida-Gwaii Islanders, who were trying to revive salmon stocks. Russ George. The true story is a really wonderful story of hope, that perhaps the oceans can be recovered, restored and replenished, and the fish can come back. Margaret O'Neill. But it's also the story of a desperate science now emerging as a serious option in the battle with climate change. It's called geoengineering. Geoengineering is the manipulation of Earth's natural system to ward off the worst effects of climate change, a sort of emergency backup if the planet faces climate catastrophe. It could work in two ways. Firstly, by sucking the CO2 out of the atmosphere, like iron fertilisation, which increases the ocean's ability to absorb carbon, or by building artificial trees to scrub out the CO2. Secondly, by reflecting sunlight to cool the planet, such as with space-based mirrors, or by whitening clouds, or by spraying sulfate aerosols into the stratosphere to form a solar shield. There's no doubting the scary epic nature of such interventions. Clive Hamilton, Charles Sturt University. To seize control of the climate system of the Earth as a whole, this is a massive proposal that humanity is starting to talk about. Margaret O'Neill. Environmentalist and author Clive Hamilton has long been a geoengineering skeptic, but he says it's an option governments must now consider. Clive Hamilton. When you consider the almost total failure of the global community to respond to the science of climate change with anything like the urgency that the science suggests, I think geoengineering is virtually inevitable. Margaret O'Neill. He's not the only one now contemplating the once unthinkable. Professor Peter Wadhams is one of the world's leading sea ice experts. He believes the dramatic collapse in summer of Arctic sea ice is a dire step change. Peter Wadhams, Cambridge University. The Arctic is warming about 3 times as fast as the rest of the world, so everything that happens in the Arctic now is what's going to happen to the rest of the world tomorrow. I'm very reluctant to advocate geoengineering because sharing, I think, everybody else's fear that since we've messed up the world with technology, if we try and fix it, we might do something worse inadvertently. But I think in this case we have to consider action. Margaret O'Neill. The most talked about scenario is a sulphur shield in the stratosphere. This tries to mimic volcanoes like Mount Pinatubo, which erupted in 1991 and cooled the planet by 0.6 degrees for 2 years. Clive Hamilton. It's technologically simple. It's relatively cheap if you don't take account of the side effects or the unintended consequences, and it could be scaled up and done in a fairly short time, and it would have an instantaneous effect within a month. Margaret O'Neill. Computer modelling shows that it would probably change the colour of the sky, not to sulphur yellow, but to a paler blue with more vivid sunsets. The modelling also shows such a shield could produce uneven results. Some places would be cooler than others and rainfall patterns could be disrupted. That raises a prospect of international conflict, because what if some countries want to deploy a shield but others don't? Clive Hamilton. To install a solar shield around the Earth, it's been estimated would require each year about 1 million flights by jet fighter-sized aircraft. So who has the capacity to do this? Well, I mean, there's really only one answer, and that's the military. So whoever has their hand on the thermostat is going to have an enormous amount of power and is also going to attract an enormous amount of hostility. My best guess is that it will be China that does it. This has not been revealed yet, but within the last few weeks, the Chinese government included for the very first time geoengineering research in its top 12 scientific research priorities. Margaret O'Neill. With billionaires like Bill Gates stepping in to also fund research, there's an urgent need for international protocols. Jason Blackstock. I think the science is certainly far out ahead of the politics. Most international political figures have either not heard about geoengineering and the political risk, or have only heard about it in the last year or two. Margaret O'Neill. Russ George remains unapologetic about his experiment. He says there's no time to wait for an international treaty. Russ George. I don't see that happening before the oceans die, right? The Royal Society of England came out a few years ago and said that by the year 2050 there'd be no harvestable fish left in the ocean, so I don't think we have time. Margaret O'Neill. But no one knows what the side effects could be, and whether the cure could be worse than the disease. And this is by Margaret O'Neill. I think that was brilliant. Just a few things on this that, really pissed me off, because they're talking about it like it's going to start happening now and they're going to do it. They are doing this already, guys. They are geoengineering the planet, okay? They're doing it all around the world. They're changing the weather. There's parts in here it's saying it's going to change the rain, how the rain comes down. It's doing that already. Look how many floods there are in places where there's not usually floods. Yeah? They're talking about, fighter jets in aircrafts doing the geoengineering. And the military are the only people that have the capacity to do it. Yeah? So not only are they getting, passenger flights are doing it too, but like we all say, we see the military jets all the time and we know it's them that's doing it, or there's either drones they're using, but they're doing it. They're spraying in the stratosphere already. They are doing this. The sky is now a pale blue. It's always a pale blue. And that was even in the computer model. The computer model that they did to show what would happen if they did this geoengineering, the spraying and everything, their model actually said there will be a paler blue sky with more vivid sunsets. All right? Now, anyone listening to this, go and check out my other videos where I'm showing you what it looks like when they're geoengineering, what it looks like when they're spraying this stuff, what the sky looks like, what the colour of the sky is like. It is a paler blue, which is what it's talking. The geoengineers are telling us it's going to be paler blue. That's what came out in their computer model. when they said what they were going to do with the geoengineering. Okay, that's what it said. It's going to be a paler blue because of all the shit that they're spraying up there. And the lines spread out and it makes the sky paler blue. It's a shield they're putting around Earth. This is not me telling you this now. This is the geoengineers who are the scientists who are doing this. I'm not saying this. In fact, as you listen to me, I want you to, I want you to act as if I'm lying, okay? And as I'm lying, you go and find out if I'm telling the truth, okay? For all of you that don't believe this is going on, go and find out the information yourself. In fact, today I am lying to you, okay? This is all a hoax, it's all a lie. Go and find out for yourself and you find out that it's truth, because I have, right? It's happening. And there isn't an international mandate. There's no treaty. No one is in charge of this, yeah? It's each to their own at the moment, right? People are experimenting above us and doing whatever the hell they want, and there is no, consent from the public. And they're going ahead and they're doing it. And another thing I wanted to mention, you know the iron fertilisation they're talking about in this, right? Now, it's funny because in Scotland, a few months ago, we had the iron fertilisation. They were doing geoengineering in Scotland, right? And all the stuff, the foam you saw come onto the bay and everything, and it covered the houses, all that foam. That's what happens when they put this iron fertilisation into the ocean, because it does all this plankton comes up and all this extra stuff comes up and it causes all the foam and all the stuff like that. That's what they just did recently in Scotland. You've got all the flooding in England at the moment, all the heavy rain. We've got all the spraying going on. We've got the veil above us, which they're creating, being sprayed from planes, which the geoengineers are telling you here, right? We've got all that going on. And still there are some people that don't get it, right? Still, there are some people that don't care. I'm sorry, if you reached this point in life, okay, whether you're a parent or not, okay, you should still be able to worry about other children, the future, okay? They are doing this to our planet. This is Mother Earth. This is our planet. They've not asked us if they can do that. There's a bunch of crazy men like David Keith and Bill Gates putting lots and lots of money into this because they want to control every aspect of the world. Controlling the weather is just the dream of a madman. And it is psychotic men doing this. And they don't give a shit about the environment. They don't give a fuck about you and me. Okay? They just don't care. It's just one big power and one big money-making scam. Okay? There is no climate warming, global warming, all this. I'm sorry, it's bollocks, right? This project has been ongoing for at least 18 years. They have been geoengineering our world, right? And trying to change the world. They're trying to change the weather. They're also trying to change us as humans. Because what's going to keep happening if we don't get sun? The geoengineers are telling you here in this piece that I've just read that they are forming a shield around Earth. Right now, you need to stop listening to us people trying to tell you about it. And you yourself need to look into it and find out what they're doing to Earth, right? And what they're doing to our weather, our planets, us as people, our food, our soil, everything. The ash trees dying off. Why do you think that is? Why do you think plant life is starting to die off? Ash trees have been around for longer than humans, right? Start putting a veil around the world and trees start dying. Why is that, people? If the trees are dying because of the lack of sun, what's it going to eventually do to humanity? What will it eventually do? And forget all that. People say, oh, what will you tell your grandchildren? Will you tell your grandchildren you just sat there and you did nothing about it? You know what? If it carries on, there will be no grandchildren. Right? There will be no grandchildren. They're trying to change every aspect of humanity, every aspect of the world. The world is in a dire position at the moment because you've got crazy men like this getting all the consent they need from the public because the public don't give a shit, and they stay quiet about it. So you've got men like this, David Keith and Bill Gates, they're just going ahead and doing what they want because nobody is saying no. Not enough of us know about it, not enough of us care. So, it makes me angry because they're telling us that they're going to do this research and they're going to be doing it soon and they're going to start doing this before it's too late. They've got this crap lie about global warming. You know what? Global warming, if you left the planet alone in the first place, if you hadn't have gone and put a hole in the ozone layer because you did all your stupid experiments, right? You're a bunch of crazy men. If you left Mother Nature to do what Mother Nature was going to do, Mother Nature would be fine, okay? Because you cannot mess with Mother Nature. Why do you insist on doing it? Oh, sorry peeps, this makes me really angry. And they're doing this in Canada. They've done it in the Pacific Ocean in Canada. They've just recently done it in Scotland. They're doing stuff in north of England. It's all constantly flooding. And you people that are suffering the floods and all the bad weather, look into it as well. Please. If you know someone that's been affected by the floods, send them this video. Yeah? Because you need to start suing the people that are doing this to you. Yeah, don't bother to go and claim your insurance. You send the bill to the government because it's them that's doing it. Okay, these are the geoengineers. They can then send the bill to the geoengineers. Yeah, this is getting ridiculous. It's getting stupid. It's being admitted so blatantly. It's admitted. Yeah, they talk about it. David Keith and Bill Gates. Go and Google their names alongside geoengineering and you find out yourself what they're doing to your world. Because we all need to start caring because, there's a bunch of us right now who care and we try to make others aware. But the people that we're trying to make aware already know about it. So I'm talking to the people that don't know about this, right? Go and look into it. They are putting a shield around Earth. And they're trying to say it's climate change and global warming, but it isn't. It's all to do with money and it's all to do with power. Because I'm going to tell you something else as well, that, you're getting geoengineered planet, you're getting genetically modified trees, flowers, plants, vegetables. These are all being genetically modified to be able to deal with this crap that they now have coming down to put into the soil. Right, that's affecting these plants. There's something called Monsanto you also need to look into, who have got an aluminium resistant seed. Okay, now aluminium comes out of the sky and it's the shit that they're spraying. So there's people that have now made seeds that don't have to worry about the aluminium. They will still grow. Okay, you've got drought resistant seeds as well. So if you're not getting your rain, you're still going to be able to sow your seeds. But then you're going to have to go back to Monsanto to get your seeds. Right? There's also a lot of this going on. There is a seed called the Terminator seed. It grows once. It doesn't grow again because you don't get another seed from it. Right? These are the psychopathic men that are doing this to this planet and this earth. That's an abomination. A seed that you plant and it doesn't yield another seed, yeah? It's an infertile seed. You get one growth from this seed, then you've got to go back to Monsanto, yeah, to get more seeds. So they're doing this, they're geoengineering the planet, they're changing our environment, and they're changing our weather, and they're changing us as humans because they're giving us genetically modified food. So it all goes hand in hand, right? But it's too late to learn all the ins and outs of this. Because we've got to a situation where they're now blatantly doing it in your face. And if you are being silent on this issue at the moment, you are giving them your consent, right? I want to tell those geoengineers out there, to David Keith, you do not have my consent to kill planet Earth, right? And to fuck with the weather like you're doing. And to mess people up like you're doing. Immune systems down. People got no vitamin D. You know what I'm saying? People are getting ill. And there are diverse effects to what you're doing. They even mention it here in this story, people. Yeah? The problems that it will cause, and, it's a moral thing. They know it's going to cause problems like this. It's part of their plan. So you either start to speak up about this, right, and tell people that don't know about it. Those that are aware are aware. Now, it's your duty. If you are aware, it is your duty to tell people who are not aware. And you forget about how foolish you're going to look. You forget about all that, right? You get on track and you make sure people that don't know about it start to find out about it. You talk about it in the pub, you talk about it at work, and you just tell people. If you need to, you pull them outside and you get them to have a look at the bloody chemtrails in the sky, right? Because this veil that is over Earth needs to go, right? So I'm going to leave the link to this piece here, and please read it, and please pass it around, yeah? Pass it to someone who doesn't know about chemtrails. Pass it to someone who doesn't know about geoengineering. Yeah? Need to get more people on board. If you're silent on the issue, you are giving your consent to do this to Earth. Look into it. Thank you.